So I've been looking at some of the stuff I've been talking about this episode, and I've got timelines and origins and just a whole lot of stuff. And I figured I've been talking a pretty big game. Now might be a good time to just put my money where my mouth is. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do that with something that fans have dubbed the back rub scene. This is the opening scene of episode 17, season 1, Shore Leave. And we're going to take a look at it. I'm going to show you a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about it and show you a bit more, and that's just how we will approach the scene. And you're going to get to see a little bit of exactly what I've been talking about so far. So, without delaying it anymore, because I've been dangling this flashy carrot in front of you guys for the entire episode now, let's take a look at it.
Anything from the landing party?
They should be sending up a report momentarily, Captain.
Oh.
Something wrong?
A kink in my back.
Okay, kind of business as usual, except for that kink in Kirk's back is kind of odd. I'm not entirely sure. I believe he's telling the truth, because with the way he looked around the room, I don't know, something seems a little fishy, but who knows, we still have plenty of the scene to go. So let's keep watching, let's keep going.
Okay, that's it. A little higher, please. Push hard. Dig it in there, Mr.
Oh. Well then. Things are getting a little interesting now. Well, okay. Almost interesting. So, we know that Kirk thought it was Spock doing the touchy-touchy. Well, I mean, we know that because Kirk said Spock's name. You can't really get around that. And from Spock's really annoyed look on his face to the way he stepped down on purpose to show Kirk that it wasn't him, we know that Spock knew that Kirk thought it was Spock doing the touchy-touchy. Right. So now, really, the scene could go in one of two directions. If he's really in pain, if Kirk's really in pain, and this is a genuine, hey, somebody help type deal, then it shouldn't matter who's touching him. It should make no difference, because, pain is pain. He needs relief from pain, and it shouldn't really matter. So, if he is in pain, then, he'll probably just apologize or something for the misunderstanding, because it's just a simple misunderstanding if he's really in pain, and then he'll continue with the massage, because he's still in pain. But if he's not, if he's been faking it, which would mean that he was faking back pain just to get Spock to touch him, and he thought his plan was working until now. If he's not really in pain, then he will have just realized that his plan has failed miserably, and there won't be any reason to continue the charade of having this kink in his back, and he'll stop the yeoman and just admit defeat, because his plan at this point has gone to complete shit. So really it could go either way. It's a completely harmless scene if he actually has pain, but it's completely fucking telling if he doesn't. So let's see which way the scene goes.
Thank you, yeoman. That's sufficient.
I'd say I've been pretty calm this episode. I've kept my cool, even, during Tahila. I've stayed collected. So I hope that gives me the freedom to completely freak out right now. Oh my god, did you see that? Did you see that? That was so perfect, it's a little disgusting. Like, not only did Kirk stop the yeoman dead in her tracks, but his tone completely changed. His tone did a complete 180 from, oh yes, dig it in there, Mr. Spock, to, thank you, yeoman, that's sufficient, in like no time flat. It was a total change. Once he realized that it wasn't Spock's hands on him and his entire plan had gone to shit, he completely changes in that moment. Gorgeous. And then there's that look between Kirk and Spock. That look that just confirms that they both know what Kirk was trying to do, and they both know that Kirk just failed so miserably. It was an epic fail on Kirk's part. This means that Kirk, his entire plan was to fake back pain to get Spock to touch him. We Kirk Spock believers, we're not so entirely crazy. Not really, no. But Kirk has to recover from this. He just failed, but there's still some scene left. He's got to recover. So let's see exactly how he recovers.
You need sleep, Captain. If it's not out of line,
I have enough of that from Dr. McCoy, Yeoman. Thank you.
Dr. McCoy is correct, Captain. After what this ship has been through in the last 3 months, there's not a crewman aboard who's not in need of a rest. Myself excepted, of course.
Okay. So not only does Kirk fail in this scene, but he fails at pretending like he didn't just fail. I mean, look at him as he's sitting there while Spock is talking. He's adjusting himself like, yes, I'm completely listening. Nothing awkward happened. I'm listening. Continue. Yes, like it's totally not a smooth recovery at all. As badass as Kirk is, this is just a moment where he fails and then fails to make it look like he didn't just fail. Poor guy. And then you have, when Spock walks away, Kirk gets that look. Now, some people say that Kirk was looking at Spock's ass, but I can't really agree with that. From the timing and the way that Kirk does it, it's a response to what Spock has just said, because Spock has just been so typically Spock. And in that moment, Kirk looks down and smiles in a way that he just doesn't do with everybody else. He reserved that look for Spock. And we'll see that a lot in the footage that we'll look at in coming episodes. We'll see it a lot. It actually happens again in the same episode in like 2 minutes, when Spock is talking and being so wonderfully Spock and logical, and Kirk just can't help himself but smile, because something about Spock just tickles the crap out of him. It's frickin' adorable. It is so endearing. It's so precious. And that's just one of Spock's effects on Kirk. And another thing that people say about the scene, other than, Kirk was looking at Spock's ass, an argument that comes up about how the scene isn't so slashy, is that he stopped the yeoman from giving him the back rub because, sexual harassment, a woman giving a man a massage on the bridge would be considered, poor form. But I've got to say that if the yeoman, if something was wrong with the yeoman doing that, then she would have known. Like, do they not have sexual harassment videos in the 23rd century? Like, she would have been briefed on proper conduct before going to work on the Enterprise. Like, that only makes natural sense. So if there had been any kind of issue that could have come up from her doing that, then she would have at least hesitated or something. There would have been we would have been given that information. We would have been told that. That would have been communicated to us. But it was perfectly fine. She just dove right in. And like there was no problem in the world. So I really can't I really can't see how that scenario works. Both her and Kirk's responses would have been different if that had been the case. The other argument that says that this scene isn't quite so slashy is actually something I've heard from a few different people, and that a lot of Kirk Spock fans have heard from a lot of different people. And they say that, well, I give my friends back rubs all the time and there's nothing behind it. And that doesn't really make sense. That's like I'm talking about apples and you're talking about oranges. It doesn't quite fit, because that's not the question that needs to be asked if we're going to go in that direction. The question is not, do you give your friends back rubs? The question is, do you fake back pain just to get one of your friends to touch you like that? That's a very different question. A very very different question. Oh, and one last little note before we move on. One last little note. The guy who wrote this episode was absolutely infamous for putting gay subtext into his work. Just thought you might want to know that. And hey, he actually has something in common with Gene Roddenberry. Look at that. I bet they worked great together.